Guys, welcome. Thought I'll do another live, Facebook Live. Josh here. You know who I am. With Web Emotion, the video animation company where we keep things moving. So today there's been something that's been on my mind that I just had to share. And what I wanted to talk to you guys about today was how to be a rich snob. Being rich versus being poor, and the big misconception. Now this has been something that's been on my mind for a while now. But in order for us to actually get into this, we just have to set the ground a bit to make sure we're on the same level. So, rich definition, right? We're not going to go into Oxford definition, Harvard definition. We're just going to simply say that richness or being rich, or the word rich defined, is just abundance of cars, abundance of houses, abundance of juice in your refrigerator, abundance of whatever it is just an abundance, right? So yeah, so basically what I want to talk about now is the definition of being poor, right? So the definition of being poor is, we're just going to say, a lack of that juice in your refrigerator, lack of cars, lack of houses. Just having a lack of is being poor, right? So the main difference between being rich and being poor is basically the mindset, right? That simply. Thinking positive versus thinking negative, right? So when you're thinking negative, right? When you're always in a negative state of mind, right? You hold yourself back from doing so many things that you could have or you should be able to achieve, but can't because you've told yourself it's not possible, right? So you have to realize that, hey, if you're going to hold yourself back with negative thinking, then there's nothing that can be done. You see, you're going to have a lack of and be poor forever. Same thing works with positive thinking. You're going to have an abundance of and be rich, right? Now, richness. When people talk about richness, they always talk about money, right? And like the examples I gave you, when I was saying abundance of, juice in your refrigerator, abundance of meat, abundance of cars and houses and all those material things, abundance of happiness, abundance of joy, that's also being rich. So when we talk about richness, let me give a practical example. When we're at a restaurant, right, we say, hey, that food is rich. Or the soil, we say, hey, you know what, rich soil, rich food. But yet soil and food do not have money, so why are we calling it rich? Right? They have an abundance of something, right? Right? It could be abundance of salt in your food. Doesn't mean it's good, but heck, it's rich. Same with soil. Has an abundance of, right? So let me give you an example, rags to riches. Right? When back to what I said, positive thinking versus negative thinking. Right, you find that there are people like, I'll give an example, like my man E.T. Eric Thomas. You can YouTube him, and you will find that, hey, he started out where he was on the streets, collecting trash out of trash bins and trash cans, and all of a sudden now he's rich. What changed? He went from a lack of to an abundance of. But how did that happen? There was a mindset shift. You see, let me give you a practical example. When you say, I can't afford it, that's it. Door shut. You're not going to move past that point. It's not happening, right? You're not going anywhere. It's done. It's a done deal. When you say, it's possible, I can, I could, I will. Okay, now how can I afford it? That changes your mentality completely. Your mind starts going to work and it's like, okay, wait, hold on. Let's start strategizing. Let's start thinking about ways. Where there's a will, there's a way, right? You have to will to be rich, right? Hey, what's up, Mr. Deming? Yeah, so you have to will to be rich. It really comes from a mindset, right? That's the perfect example I can give. Now, in order for anything to be rich, it just has to have the right ingredients, the right essentials, right? To make it perfect, to make it germinate, to make it reproduce, expand, multiply. Right? So when you're looking at this picture here and you're seeing sugar, water, cheddar, eggs, cornmeal, flour, salt, when you're seeing all these ingredients, when mixed together, formulate, a dish, whatever it may be. I have no idea what you'd cook with all of this, but yeah, maybe some spaghetti carbonara, some Italian dish, yeah, with the sugar as well. So let me give this example, right? Let's just say you have soil in your hand. That soil is rich. It has an abundance of minerals and nutrients, right? Now, you plant a seed, right? I'll give this example in business terms. If whenever an investor is looking for a business to invest in, right, he has money in the form of a seed that he wants to place into some rich soil where he knows it will germinate. That's why they're always asking for proposals. They're always asking for workout plans. They're always asking for business plans. They're asking for cash flow estimates and projections, because they want to know that where they're planting their seed is in the right soil that has the right nutrients, that has the right ingredients and minerals to see it grow, right? So you have to understand this, that it's a very simple principle, but it's highly misunderstood and overlooked. Now, when you plant that seed, it immediately begins to germinate and grow and becomes a nice, beautiful plant, because the soil is rich with the right ingredients, right? Now, that small plant becomes a tree, a big, beautiful tree with bright leaves, and that tree produces fruit, right? And from those fruit, right, from that fruit you produce, you now have seeds. So those seeds fall into the same rich soil and germinate again and become trees that produce fruit, that produce seeds, that produce trees, that produce fruit, that produce seeds, and so on and so forth, right? So you have to realize that your mind is the soil, right? What I was speaking of when I was talking about soil all this time, it's your mind. If you don't have abundance of rich thinking, if you don't develop your mind every single day, if you don't look for ways to enrich yourself, you're going to end up being a person who's poor with a lack of. So let me talk about the big misconception here. The really big misconception. Now, people say you have to have in order to be. Now, I know that makes no sense. Hey, what's up, Mr. Miner? Yeah, Zippy, yeah, where there's a will, there's a way. Thanks. So, have, right? You have to have in order to be. So you have to have money in order to be rich. Well, hold on. That goes against everything we've just been talking about. You see, be, do, have. Not have, do, be. Does that make sense? All right, let me explain this further. So the big misconception is they have, right? Therefore they are. That's the big misconception. And that's what everyone sees. What they see on the outside is who they say you are, right? If they say, hey, that guy has a nice ride, he has a new Mercedes-Benz 2017, that guy is rich, right? Well, it's true. There's truth to that, but that's just the physical manifestation of. That's why you have people that, hey, will win the lottery one day and the next day they're back broke, because they didn't have an abundance, right, of knowledge in order to multiply what they already have, because they were never rich to begin with. Oh gosh. Okay, so big question here, right? You are, therefore you have, right? That's the answer to the big question, right? So be, if you want to be rich, if you want to be smart, if you want to be big and built, I'll give an example. Ronnie Coleman. If you want to be like Ronnie Coleman, 9-time Olympic champion, if you don't know who he is, you can YouTube him. If you want to be that big, you would literally have to be Ronnie Coleman first. What time does he wake up in the morning? What does he eat? How many times a day does he eat? How many times a day does he train? How many times a week does he train? Does he train with partners? Does he train by himself? You know, how long does he train for? What kind of weights does he lift? You know, what kind of exercising and body parts does he move? You literally have to become that person, right? Once you are that person, you begin to do what that person does. And then this comes now into habits, talking about habits. It takes about 60 to 67 days to change a habit, right? So once you change a habit and you formulate new habits, you have become a new person. So that's how you be. That's how you become. It's just by formulating new habits, by getting new habits. So now I'm going to talk about, you know, basically why I bet you tuned in for this video is how to be a rich snob. And I know you're probably like, what? I want to know how to be a rich snob. Who wants to know how to be a rich snob? I mean, not me, right? But hold on, give me a chance. Give me a chance. Just walk with me. So the Oxford Dictionary definition of a rich snob is a person with an exaggerated respect for high social position or wealth who seeks to associate with social superiors and looks down on those regarded as socially inferior. That's, to me, that's just that's what I would call identity crisis, right? Not knowing who you are, right? But let's look at our definition, right? We've defined rich and what it is. So what is a rich snob, right? So our definition of a rich snob is a person who seeks to surround themselves with positive material that will help them mature and grow spiritually, mentally, emotionally, financially, physically, whilst intentionally blocking out and ignoring any negative material that will do the opposite. Just want you to think about that for a moment, right? Being a rich snob. Be, do, have, right? I am a rich snob because I know that I'm becoming rich mentally, right? The rich soil, the right nutrients. I'm filling my mind with the right nutrients, the right ingredients, right? And I cannot have it being infected, right? I can not have the integrity of my mind being affected by anything but what is positive that helps me grow. So that's what being a rich snob is. So you see, it wasn't like you thought. I wasn't actually telling you be a rich snob. So there are 5 gateways to your mind, right? This is really important. There are 5 gateways to your mind. There's touch, sight, smell, there's the sense of taste and hearing, right? So whatever you see, whatever you hear, mainly what you see and what you hear, right? The environment which you surround yourselves with. You know, if you want to be an agent of your environment and not a product of your environment, then you have to literally be above your environment in order to affect it. I don't know if that makes sense, you know, but yeah, I hope it does. So basically what I'm saying is that, you know, from the music you listen to, from the people you listen to, from the things that you see. Hey, what kind of things are you watching, right? Smell, you know, smell not so much. You know, as soon as the human mind smells something that is not pleasant, we immediately divert away from it. So, you know, that can be avoided. However, when it comes to hearing and seeing, a lot of the times we tend to stick around, right? Because of how we think or how we feel others will feel if we act differently than they are, if that makes sense. So if you really want to protect the integrity of your mind, it mainly comes, I'll say the main 2 things you need to look for is what you see and what you hear, right? So, how can I be a rich snob, right? So, the answer is simple. Just feed your mind with positivity. That's it. So, we're talking about books. Reading books upon books upon books upon books. It says, you know, millionaires, some of the greatest millionaires in this world, and even billionaires, read a book a week. I'm struggling to read a book a month. So yeah, they read a book a week, right? And if you want to be on their level, you have to be a reader. There's no way you're saying, hey, I want to earn $1 million every single month, every single day, and you don't want to be like that very same person that's doing exactly what you want to achieve. It just doesn't make sense. So identifying that, so your mind, reading books, right? What you listen to, listening to audiobooks, listening to audios and podcasts, listening to radio programs about, whatever it is. I'm in business, so it's business for me. Whatever it is that will feed your mind, right? YouTube videos. YouTube has some of the greatest material out there. I mean, it's, if not the greatest. YouTube has provided a platform for the first time in history where millionaires and billionaires actually get on their phones or get on their video recorders and they give tips and advice. You could not get that in the 90s. You could not get that in the early 2000s. You could not get that even a year or two, after YouTube came into being. Right? You couldn't. Right now, there's so much information on YouTube. It's ridiculous. Just ridiculous about almost any and every topic that you want to know about. It's on YouTube and it's in video format. I mean, that's some of the most engaging and powerful content is video. Absolutely agree. Alright, then there's who you hang out with, right? Your social network. Your network is your net worth, right? I'll never forget Mr. GK, shout out, said that your network is your net worth, and that's really true. Who you surround yourself with is basically your immediate contact to your mind, right? They may be saying something like, hey, I'm just pushing, I'm just going on, I'm just surviving. But at the end of the day, back to integrity of the mind and being a rich snob, if you listen to that, if you allow that, if you consume that content, that just ends up doing you more harm and good, right? Instead of having a lack of being rich in mind, having a lack of positivity, you begin to start having a lack of positivity. Instead of an abundance of positivity, you begin to have a lack of positivity. So who you hang around with is so important, right? So I think that's it. I think I'm done. I just wanted to give, my 2 cents over there on basically being rich versus being poor. So this really helps with identity and has helped me a lot with identity. When you see someone who's driving a bigger car than you, right? It's not because you are less than. It's basically because your time hasn't come yet. I can't compare, a 1-year-old kid cannot compare themselves with me. I've been on this planet a whole lot longer. I've been exposed to a whole lot, right? You can only grow to the level of your exposure, right? So basically what I mean by that, how you can only grow to the level of your exposure, is basically, if I'll never forget, I was in Zambia a few years ago, and the whole country, all the malls do not have an escalator, right? Now, up to a few years ago, they recently started inputting escalators into their malls. And one of my friends from Zambia told me that they used to have school trips to ride on the escalator, right? For most of us, that's a normal thing. But for them, it was heaven on earth. Like, they were not used to that. They hadn't been exposed to that, right? So they hadn't grown with it, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think that's it. So you just have to realize that, whatever you're doing right now, wherever you are in life, right, wherever you are, just know and just make sure you are being a rich snob. Be the biggest rich snob you can ever be, right? Be the biggest rich snob you can ever be. Because in being the biggest rich snob you can ever be, you'll be a blessing to so many people, right? Because you will end up having an abundance of all you want in this life. Abundance of peace, happiness, joy, everything, right? So just make sure, guys, that you keep your mind right, focused, and yeah, once again, don't forget to be the biggest, richest snob you can ever be. Alright, man. Thanks so much, guys.